Welcome everyone to On the Move, and this is a day that we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about warm-ups and cool-downs because it's getting very hot outside. A lot of people are doing training for either preseason or out-of-season sporting events or training sessions, and so we're going to address a little bit of what that might look like for a warm-up and a cool-down. For your warm-ups, the biggest thing that you want to happen here is that you're breaking a sweat. You're warming up all of your muscles, you're getting your blood flowing to your joints, and you're getting the muscles and joints that you're going to be using in your workout ready for a workout. So first step that I recommend is break a sweat. Ways that you could do this would include jogging or doing a dynamic stretch where you're moving and stretching at the same time, or even doing some light stretching exercises with a TheraBand or dumbbells. You could also jump rope if you're a person that wants to be super active in your warm-up. You could do some agility drills, something that's going to get your heart pumping a little bit and break a light sweat. You shouldn't be breathing super heavy, and you should be able to still carry on a conversation during this time. The next part that we want to think about in our warm-up is that the exercises that we're going to be doing during that time are going to be similar to the exercises that we're doing in our training session. So we'll talk about this a little bit later as I go through a few exercises, but the example that we'll talk about today would be if we're going to be doing squatting during our workout, then we can warm up the squat. So all of the joints and muscles that we need for a squat, we can start in our warm-up by preparing those muscles and joints. And then in our cool down, we want to bring our heart rate down. So we want to do that quickly, and the best way to do that is nasal breathing, so breathing in through your nose, nice big deep breaths in out your mouth. You'll notice that if you can sit or lie for a second, even just walking around and focusing on your breathing, how quickly your heart rate can slow down when you're focusing on your nasal breathing. A few things that you can do for your cool down would include walking. Even a light jog would be fine if you had just been doing something that was more intense. You could do yoga or meditation. You can do foam rolling and of course stretching the different muscle groups that you just worked. And you always want to make sure that you're doing stretching in different yoga positions. These are nice long held positions. If you're doing dynamic stretching, you can do those, but it needs to be light and controlled, not where like in your warm-up you're trying to break a sweat. In our cool down, we're trying to keep our heart rate decreasing and not increasing. And we want to make sure that on these heavier days, if we're doing like a 1 rep max or anywhere where we're lifting sort of heavy, that we really focus on drinking water throughout our workout as well as during our cool down to keep ourselves hydrated and keep our muscles full of the oxygen that they need. So a few pieces of movement that we could work on for our workout. I'm going to demonstrate a few. I mentioned earlier today we're going to talk about if we were warming up the squat and cooling down from a training session where we focused on squatting. So a few exercises that you could do for a warm-up might include butterfly stretching. Most people know what this is. Feet together, knees are out. You might feel a stretch right here. If you needed more of a stretch, you could press your elbows down. And you want to feel that through your groin here. Nice little stretch. Next, we could talk about our groin a little bit more and into stretching out our hips some. So we can look at like a groiner. We're in a nice lunged position. Switch sides. Nice lunged position. Feels great. Nice little stretch to the hamstrings, the groins, up into the hip joint itself. You can hold these. You can alternate these. If you wanted in your warm-up, you could speed them up a little bit. We could also look at more of like a Cossack squat, which is where we're doing more of a lateral motion. I'm getting a nice stretch along the inside of my thigh, my hip joint. Switch sides. This way. We can work a little bit more into our hamstrings and our glutes by reaching down for the tops of our feet, coming down into our squat with our chest up, and then back up, stretch our hamstrings. Hips and groin, hamstrings and glutes. We could then next go into a light progression of squatting. So we could start with just regular air squats where we have no resistance. We could add a barbell or a PVC pipe. before we add weight and start to work into our working sets. So those are just a few warm-up ideas for something like a squat training session progression. If you've got more questions, of course, we can always talk about those specifically, but going into a cool down, we can look at things like a foam roller. I love foam rollers. I have one in my house and I use it weekly for various muscles and joints. It stretches the spine really well. I love to use it for spine stretching as well as hamstrings, glutes, lats, so you can roll up through here. You can pretty much roll anything that's a muscle belly. You don't want to roll your joint, like I wouldn't put it like on my elbow, for example, or my kneecap. That would be very uncomfortable, but otherwise you can roll about anything, which is great. We can talk about like if we were cooling down from a squat, again, a squat training session, we could look at a child's pose, which would be this way, and we're reaching. Nice little stretch through our back as well as our glutes and hips. We talked about a dynamic cool down earlier where we would be doing walking and stretching at the same time, so that's of course still an option. Or we could do some glute stretching this way. Whew. I did a leg workout today. I am very sore, so feeling it through the glute, maybe even some of my hamstring pull, but it feels nice. So those are just a few examples of what you could do for squat training, warm up and cool down, but I would love to help you set up something if you need more help with a specific training session that you're doing, or even setting up programming for a week at a time or a month at a time that helps you kind of prepare and get ready for your sessions as well as recovering better so that your muscles are ready for the next day and not sore for 3 days. Nobody wants to feel that way. So feel free to reach out. I do have a Facebook group that is specific to strength and conditioning, so you can always feel free to join. Anyone's welcome. You don't have to be from Metro Atlanta, but it is called Strength and Conditioning Performance for Metro Atlanta Athletes. But so find us, feel free to join. I put information up there as well as videos and different educational things, so you can ask questions there as well. And if you'd like to schedule a free consultation where we could chat on the phone about whatever it is that you've got going on and want to work on, you can go to my website, onthemovempt.com, and schedule there. All right, we will see you next week for more fun. Have a great one.